Hi guys, my name is Sam,
I'm Belize, and this is Heartbreaker Films.
and we are watching Midsommar. Or Midsummer, whatever you want to say. It's fine. No one's judging you here. Belize, was this your first time?
Yes,
Oh my word, I've seen this movie 3 times.
that's a lot for you, right? Like that's
Yeah, for me it's a lot. For you it's like Sam. But I saw this twice in theaters. No, 4 times. I saw it twice in theaters. I've seen the director's cut, and then I watched it again to prep for this.
nice. Okay, I feel like seeing it twice in theaters is saying something because I've never seen anything more than twice in theaters.
Do you think you could logline this?
As Danny grieves the loss of her family, she she finds solace in an unexpected community. I That's like the closest I could get.
That's perfect. I just wanted to see if you could like sum it up. This is my log line. It's almost identical. After the death of her family, Danny chooses to join her emotionally distant boyfriend and his friends on an anthropological trip to a remote, off-grid village in Sweden, where their lives will forever change. My question to you: what genre would you put this film in?
Oh, horror. I feel like it's straight up horror to me.
If this was straight up horror, then what would make us as Heartbreaker Films discuss this motion picture?
There is a big aspect of love in the whole thing. It is her searching for some sort of love since she's lost it from her family and isn't really able to get it from her boyfriend. I feel like in that way it does connect. It is all about relationships and finding support. Danny is definitely a character that really needs support.
Yeah, exactly. I think that this is definitely a horror film for sure, but because it ties so deeply into like emotional growth, a part of me almost wants to classify it as just like a very dark drama. Do you think there's a hidden lesson in the story? Like, what do you think Ari Aster, as the screenwriter and director, was trying to tell us as an audience?
For me, it was just kind of about I don't know if it was a lesson so much as just the importance of having support for yourself through all stages of your life as you go through the tougher times as you get older and everything like that, and just surrounding yourself with that sort of community and that you can find family even if it's not like literal by blood, kind of
Yeah.
the importance of family and support.
How did you react from the opening sequence of this movie?
It's a lot. Like I was like, okay, cool. Like there's not at first because of that, I didn't even expect, honestly, I thought we were just starting in it. Like I was like, oh, we're just starting in it. There is no typical, I guess a lot of horror films start out in the daily life and how it seems. And I just didn't expect that to be the case for this one because of the way it opened.
This movie opens with the most gruesome death of her family. Like, first of all, I had never seen that kind of a death on screen. Two, just like the voicemail, this is making me so uncomfortable. But I think the voicemail and what happened is kind of a really good root for her character. Not kind of, it is a really good root for her character because she has no foundation. She has nothing. Danny has no one to turn to. And the only emotional connection she has in this life left is a guy who's basically wanted to break up with her for the past 4 years. Like, that's his stasis of the story. What do you think of Christian?
It's so clear that he's terrible once they get there, and everything that he does there, both to Danny and Josh, about the whole thesis thing. I was literally like, you keep getting worse and worse. I really do not like him in that stuff. In the opening introduction of him, the way they introduced him, at first I kind of got it because I was like, I understand that it's a lot to be the sole support of someone. So I understood his side of the argument until her family died, and then I was like, he's in the wrong forever now because there's no question of how you need to be there for someone that you love who's going through all of that. One of the parts that I really hated was when he did celebrate her birthday, because I think they did that so well in that he brought her outside right in front of the view of the girls, and literally he looks over at one point to see the girls seeing him be a good boyfriend. And there are those kinds of people, like guys or girls, who are in relationships and at the same time still wanting to look like they're a better boyfriend or girlfriend than they are when other people are watching, just to like make themselves seem more attractive. And they did it in a way where it was subtle but still really, really clear. And I was like, oh my God, I really, really hate Christian right now.
The allegory I believe this film is portraying, and the reason why I brought it to Heartbreaker Films, is because I think the entire plot and theme is driven around the concept of toxicity and toxic relationships, toxic family, toxic friends, toxic love. And I kind of forced myself upon the second time watching it. I was like, you know what? Because I was like having a conversation with someone and they were like just ripping apart Christian. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch this movie for a second time and I'm going to try to force myself to see it only through his perspective. And bruh, like, I feel really bad for him at the beginning. I really do. Because so the way that they start is they've been dating for 4 years. And the way his friends were talking to him, his friends were like, dude, you've been wanting to break up with this girl for so long. And she's like really needy. Even before the parents and everything that happened, like she's always been very needy. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are already 1 foot out and you're trying to get out, like imagine if we gender bent this.
I didn't need to gender bend it. I've lived that side where I'm like, I won't go too much further into it than that. Of like, I've been with multiple people before. Almost everyone I've been with actually has had some sort of emotional need to the point where it's like, it was always about them. And then if I ever need anything, they were asympathetic. So I don't even really want to know how Danny is when Christian comes to her, because I bet you she's not going to be as good as at giving help as she is for asking for it. And so that's why the whole time I was like, I get why Christian wants to leave, because if that's the whole conversation constantly, and that's all you're associating with them is those kinds of feelings, of course you want out, even if you love them.
So what you're trying to say, because I don't think people realize when they like watch these videos or like listen to this, whatever, that this is really me and Belize's blind reaction. Like we don't talk about this before we meet. Like this is really like our authentic reaction. So you're telling me that we're both on Christian's side.
We're both on Christian's side.
We're probably one of the only two people that are on Christian's side.
Because anyone who talks about this movie ever always is like, oh, ugh, horrible, vulgar words about Christian. And yeah, of course, he's the antagonist to our protagonist. And like, as the film progresses, he's a skeezy dude. But I've been in those relationships too. I've been the Christian. Bruh, I travel so often. I'm a very like, my backpack is my backpack type of a person. You know what I mean? Like, I've been in those like, I was planning a trip for my PhD thesis to Sweden with my best friends of my whole life who heard me talk mad crap about my significant other for 4 years. I'm gonna tell you one thing, and maybe this is gonna make me the worst person on planet Earth. Maybe this would be the worst person. That this is when I started empathizing with him. I would say no.
I think that's fair. I think we all have to realize that it's that idea of empathy can only go so far. And if all you're doing is giving, the other person is just going to keep taking. They don't give back. And that just seems to be what their relationship is. I don't think Danny has learned how to give back. She just is used to calling him and doesn't have those boundaries because they were never set. And it's the idea of like, if you're on a plane, you put your own oxygen mask on first. Where's Christian's oxygen mask? He doesn't have one. He's just holding hers for her. He's been holding hers for her since like the beginning to the end of the film. Say what you will about how he acts there. He acts terribly. I get it. But also part of it is because of the spell and everything like that. So like, I think it's perfectly fair, if not the healthier option, to have told her, no, you cannot come because I need to focus on school. This is my PhD. This is my livelihood. I cannot be taking care of you during that.
But it's because we start with Danny, we love Danny, and we start with such a horrible opening that automatically we have the sympathy of the audience, like, dude, no, you have to be there for her. But this poor dude is like not wanted to be in this relationship for a couple years now. And he sticks it out. He stays with her because he agrees with us as an audience. He's like, she needs me. And then he goes to Sweden. It is so much more like, it is such a good judge of your own character that if you want to be done with a relationship, end it. End it. Because now you are being cruel. but because he chose to drag it out and still be rotten, it was like this perfect allegory of toxicity where it's like he needs her just as much as she needs him. And because neither one of them is willing to admit to the fact that they are destroying each other, they will destroy each other in the process. So what do you think of Pele? How would you like to play with Pele?
He's weird to me. I hate him and like him at the same time. Like, he's creepy, but he's sweet. It's strange. I understood why he was drawing the thing he was drawing in the living room. Once I looked back on everything, I was like, okay. He does a really good job of being that kind of fake support that we kind of often see, where if there is a toxic relationship, then there will be sometimes those people that try to, like, you know, nudge their way in, and it's like, oh, I remembered your birthday. You're like, happy birthday. I remembered. I got you. And it's because it's like, well, yeah, you're not as high on the drugs that Christian's on.
Also, because you just freaking met her. Okay, it's fresh for you. Like, you know?
The only thing that I guess I would have expected to have seen more is him being the one to push for Danny to come. I was kind of surprised that she wasn't in the plan in the first place to go there, that he like wouldn't have like taken Christian aside and been like, hey, if you want Danny to come because of how she's grieving, like we can make that happen, kind of thing. Like, I would almost expect him to encourage it because he was drawing her and that sort of thing, and like already had those plans before they went to Sweden for her.
3 things came up on my mind as you were speaking about Pele. 1, I don't think he pushes for Danny to come because free will. Like, any of those guys, if they just said no, they wouldn't have to come. I think that's what's so interesting about this village, is that they're not like axe murdering, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just following tradition. This, like, if you want to come. It's kind of like the whole vampire trope where it's like the vampire can't come into your house, like you have to invite them in, you know what I'm trying to say? 2, and this is why I love you. This is why I love you so much. Yeah. In every toxic relationship, you know how guys are always like, oh, your guy friends want to be with you. That's not true. But, but, tell me I'm wrong when I say in every toxic relationship, there's always that one female or male that's always like, I get you. I made you your favorite chocolate ganache. You know, like, what the, like, no. Like, bitch, you just met this person. It's all brand new for you. Everything that's brand new is better. You know, it doesn't, no, that's stupid. I think it's interesting that, like, you know, I don't know. I've always felt that, like, if you already have a foot out of the relationship, it's just so much easier to trip into someone else, you know? But I will ask you a question. I don't remember what he was drawing. What was he drawing?
I would need to put up an image. I don't remember, because I didn't go back and rewatch anything. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember it being a weird kind of I don't think she was in it, but it was similar to the drawings that he draws later on in Sweden, because the first time I saw the image, whatever it was, I was like, okay, he's drawing, that's weird, why do we have a close-up on this? And then later when they showed him drawing again and he was drawing her, and I was like, ah, shoot, whatever he was drawing was definitely about her in the first one. So we can put the image here, but I don't know, I don't remember off the top of my head what it was. Whatever it was definitely the same kind of style and evoked in me the same feelings and made me think of the other one, of the first drawing. I do want to bring up one thing. What was so interesting about showing the whole, her looking for support and everything like that, it's, you go from someone who's not really able to give you anything and who's not being able to, like, show you the sympathy you need to the level of what you need, to literally, not only is the village there for her, but they make it so the opposite extreme that any emotion she feels, they are all feeling with her and, like, letting out the same pain or the same joy and the same cries of anything simultaneously with her, literally experiencing her feelings with her. So it's such the opposite extreme of that. And I thought that was really cool, and that was really interesting to show, like, the different levels of support that people can provide for you.
Go into the village more. That was going to be my next question. This is going to be about, like, let's talk about the village. Like, how do they function? How do they work in the story?
The village is really interesting because they're not outwardly clearly creepy and scary, but they definitely are behind the scenes with whatever they're doing. There's no one that I'm like, oh, this is the villain kind of thing, or this is the clear antagonist. It's just their beliefs and this is how they do it. And if you don't like it, try to leave, and maybe you can. And there's, like, I viewed as an orgy. I don't know if that's like the impregnation scene. And I'm like, wow, you didn't all need to be here, but you're all here anyway.
Historically. So this film does does a really good job of researching Viking lore and like history. And I don't know if you knew this, but oftentimes in royal courts, like back, people like of nobility would be in the room on the day that the king and the queen would like consummate the marriage to like make sure A, she bled, and B, that it was done.
The only reason why I call it an orgy slash impregnation, I feel, is because they are literally making the same noises with her, the orgasm noises, that I'm just like, that's when I'm like, now it's weirder. Whereas if they were just watching, I feel like then I would get more of the historical accuracy from it. So that was like a lot to me. And I'm like, okay, we're all naked together. And yep, all right, got it, Grandma. Thank you for coming as close as you are, Grandma.
You know, there's the whole concept of like the collective versus the individual, like a collectivist society versus an individualist society. And I feel like the United States, Western Europe, and Canada, just North America in general, is a very individualistic society. And then we have this community that like there is no such thing as one person. We are all one and the same. We all should express each other's emotion, grief. That's why when those two people die, there's no anger. That's, you know what I mean? Like, it's just what it is. Like, that's what's going to come for all of them. They live in this pattern of existence where there is no need for sorrow. There is no need for grief, greed, ambition, lust. There is nothing. I think the only character that expresses herself as a villain perhaps is Maya, the redhead. And I think it's because the fact that like it's just the clearest antagonist to Danny, which is like Danny wants Christian and Maya wants Christian. And so here we have like the very simple like cheating prospect, because even Pele is kind of like more like docile about it, whereas Maya's like doing spells and love magic and putting her pubic hair into food and shit like that. I say so casually, but she needs a place like them. And I think it's so interesting because I love cult worship. Y'all know, love me some cult stuff. Cults thrive off of people like Danny because they'll never leave. Because everything that they need is here. We love you. We support you. We are you. So that scene where the women are crying, I cried. Because it just was like a moment of like, because one of my biggest pet peeves in life is like when something happens, let's say like, oh, my bike got stolen, and someone's like, oh, my car got stolen. Let's say, oh, my car got stolen, and someone's immediate reaction is, oh, I'm sorry. And it sucks because like that's what you're supposed to say. Like, I get it. What else are you gonna do other than say I'm sorry? But this village has a response to that. Their response isn't, oh, I'm sorry. Their response is like, we're gonna ride this one out with you. And in doing that, it oddly is like the therapy she needs to know that like her sorrow, her grief isn't psychotic. It's human. And so these inhuman people, weirdly, in my opinion, are doing the most empathetic thing a person can do.
The way that she cries, even in the beginning, they make it sound like a scream, like cry that you don't want to hear. Like the cry itself is horrifying. It's not a normal cry. She does it at a certain pitch. Like they trained whoever was in charge of the crying was great because it's at a pitch that's like uncomfortable. It's not like it's like like that, and it's like, oh my God, stop. And I think I get what you mean too. It's like it's very much when we see her first crying like that, Christian's there for her. He's not making any noise. And I feel like they kind of use the idea of like noise to also represent the level of support or empathy that characters have for each other. So that's why he's silent that entire time. And then you contrast that with everyone's crying with her and writhing with her and feeling everything so full out with her because they are in it with her for sure.
I feel like that has to be connected to something historical or myth-based too. Just because everything that Ari Aster has been like creating in this film so far, I don't know. I feel like it has like there has to be something with it, like almost like like oh my god, this, you know how like sometimes in certain cultures they have like a mourning song that they sing in like lament of the dead. I feel like it has to stem from something like that, but then again, and this is total like thought process, but I love what you're saying about the difference between him being silent and them being loud. I think it's a perfect, it's just a perfect contrast. I think this film naturally progresses in such a gorgeous manner so that when the final image of Danny exists, I think that it's like very lovely. Why do you think they picked Christian? You know, they had all these other men. They didn't pick the boyfriend of the girl, the couple, the British couple. They didn't pick them. You know, they didn't pick any of the eligible men that were there. They picked Christian, and it's not because Christian, like, you know, was all that great. If anything, I think the guy from The Good Place is a better man, if anything. I think they picked Christian because they thought he'd be the easiest to manipulate. And I think as someone that, think about where they start. Danny is like rock bottom, and Christian's like a normal average person, you know, like mildly attractive white man. You know, and then at the end of the film, but there's a reason why she's selected for the May Queen and he's selected as their sacrifice. They literally use him and then he's sacrificed. But she's like exalted. You know what I'm trying to say? Like everyone befriends her and no one uses her, you know? They manipulate her for sure. They put her in the seat of honor and they want her to be a part of their community and stay forever. Everyone else dies, you know, like everyone else is killed off. So I think it's an interesting thing where they kind of were like telling her in a subconscious kind of manner, like, this is not for you. This man's not for you. Use him and lose him. Do you want to talk about the concept of the May Queen?
I don't really think I know enough about what she is for other than the symbol of the entire village. I did like a little hinting towards that stuff that she was assimilating well for Danny, where she like picks the flowers backwards earlier in the movie for Christian and that sort of thing. So I wasn't at all surprised when she did get it. Part of me also did wonder, we should just give in to her because they want her to stay, you know, like how are you beating everyone who grew up here? I don't know. But no, I think it's an interesting concept. I just don't really know how much of it is a symbolic position as opposed to like an act, because it seems more of like a symbolic position.
Yeah, I don't have anything either. I know I've been pulling out facts left and right. I got nothing on the May Queen. I thought it was cutesy. I thought it's more of like a, it's like if I like when I called you and I was like sad over my breakup and you took me and like you ran and me all went out to karaoke. I felt like that was what the May Queen was, you know, like, hey, I know things are sad, but like, here's Ring Around the Rosie. Oh, on a side note, I do think this film is the only time I've ever seen mushrooms accurately depicted in cinema. Like, you know, it's not like this wild bullshit. It's more just like the flowers are moving in and out. And like, you know, life just seems a little bit transparent in 3D. Like, reminded me of festival days.
That moment too was great. The whole peer pressure moment for her having to take it with them so that they could all be on the same trip. And I think that was another example of Christian being a good boyfriend. He wasn't going to. He was literally asking them to wait for them. And the friends kind of just sucked.
Did Pele like try pushing her onto the mushrooms, or was he like helpful about the mushrooms? I don't remember.
He just didn't do anything.
Yeah. I think, again, it's the whole concept of like this village is just going to offer you things. You either say yes or no.
You're right.
You know, until you get in. And then once you're in, it's like, you know, that's disgusting. Oh my God, Samantha. Anyways, I love the idea of a sunny horror film. I love the production design of this. You kind of talked about this earlier, but like they really created, like I know he obviously researched, but this is very much his own lore and mythos. Like this is I could never imagine this being real, but also it's kind of like a really twisted, like, cult meets like Vikings meets modern day meets like cannibalism. Like, I don't know.
No, yeah, honestly, I would totally buy that this place exists. If someone was to tell me this is a real thing, aside from like the spells being real or not, I would honestly think that like spells are cast, they may or may not actually work. But I would totally believe this place exists.
That's a very good point in general. We don't know anything about any of the spells in this movie actually being functional. The only thing that actually like has like a cause and effect is when they take drugs. The drugs are real. What you see with the drugs are real. But Maya's love spell and stuff is the only thing I can really point out and say like that's a spell. You know what I mean?
Answer me this, because I feel like that if that was a woman who was put under a spell or drugged somewhat recently related to the time that happens, I would have categorized it as rape. And I feel like I still would categorize it as rape in this case.
I'm really happy you used that word because I was almost going to use it at the very beginning of this film when I started talking about Christian. I think they rape him. I personally think they rape him. What is rape? It is non-consensual sex, correct? I think like the flirtationship on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like 100%, I've wanted this person my whole life, I'm down. And 1 being like, I'm sorry, what's your name? I think that this flirtationship is somewhere around like a 3 or 4. And they keep pushing it to a 6. In terms of like pushing them together, pushing him with her. But the fact that they like brought him into a room and they kind of like suggested to him and like told him like about Maya, and then the fact that he like goes into this like building, blah blah. I do not think this is consensual sex. I do not think it's consensual sex, and I do agree with you. I think that we're being very open and feminist right now with stating that like gender neutrality. They're forcing him into that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I don't, the thing is it's so unclear as to whether or not Danny knows there is a spell involved or something like that, because I feel like if she knew, it would make her even more so the kind of anti-hero that we feel like she is. But it's almost like that kind of thing where it's like, it's a little concerning because it kind of does, in a way, this movie does kind of send the message of, oh, he cheats and therefore he deserves what's coming to him, which is death. When really it's like, no, oh, he was raped and she's just as bad as the rest of the village, and that's why she kills him on top of it. And I just hope that people get that message from it and not the other message, because I feel like it's very easy to interpret it either way.
Please, I love you, because I feel like everyone I talk to about this movie views it the other way. They all view it like, oh, he deserved it. I'm like, he deserved to die? He deserved to get burned alive? Like, it wasn't his choice. It wasn't his choice for any of it. Is he like a crap boyfriend? Yeah, I'm not gonna kill him.
I really want to believe that she does not know that he was under any sort of spells or anything, because she was not, there's no clue given to her about that, and no one goes and tells her. And so I feel like that's why I feel like it's so easy for something like Midsommar to be interpreted as, oh, he got what's coming to him, when it's like, no, he did not. He was raped. We just don't, our brains, we've been trained lately, luckily, to address rape properly for how it occurs with women. Not saying we've addressed how to charge people for it in terms of law, but in terms of our brains identifying it, we've gotten better about it. And I feel like we're not yet at the place where people are properly being trained how to identify the same things that happen to men when it happens a lot with them as well. It's just not reported a lot because of the way it's viewed. But anyway, so then I hate whenever I do see it in media, because it oftentimes gets away with it.
I feel like people are not understanding when we say consensual sex, we don't mean only for women. I feel like often in media, the constant I hear when it's about men being preyed upon, because that's what it is, men being preyed upon by the opposite gender or the same, opposite sex or the same sex, is, oh, come on, you want it. Come on. Oh, she's so hot. Oh, stop bragging. You know, like stuff like that, where it's like, no, he could just as much not want that. And I just feel like men, women, we should all be on the same page of like, this is wrong, regardless of your gender. But going back for a second, the thing I do like about the fact that it's like left a bit ambiguous is because things like this can arise. We can have conversation like this, you know? I think, and oftentimes filmmakers leave traps for their audience where we sit there as an audience and we're like, oh, why didn't they make that more clear? Because half the time it's fun to discuss what your interpretation is. Because in life, like I could see you behind a wall, like I could see you through a window talking about to someone, you know, and not know anything you're talking about. And I can interpret it as like, oh, you're talking about me. Like, why are you keeping that secret from me? Or the filmmaker could let me hear everything you're talking about and there's no longer mystery in life and everything has a little pretty bow on it. In this, I think it's very interesting that technically speaking, Danny's presented to us as our protagonist and Christian as our antagonist. But you could literally flip this story the complete opposite way around, make Christian the protag, make Danny his antag, and feel for him as like a character. And that's what makes it so rich. Was he cheating? Was he on a spell? Does she have a right to seek revenge, or is she the horrible monster that we're all running from?
Are there any other topics you want to cover? Otherwise, I'm good to talk about what would you have done differently? This is a very you-directed film.
Thank you. No, I would have done it first, is what I would have done differently. I would have made this movie first, because I've wanted to make a daytime horror film for a decade, especially a cult movie. Oh my God, I love cults. I wouldn't have done anything, to be honest.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. The only thing I would have thought about was I would have wanted Pei, is that his name? I would have wanted to show a scene with him and Christian, not where he's like forcing or encouraging in that way, but it's like if you wanted to come, like there's room kind of thing, like just something where it's like neutral but still encouraging. I would have had something like that to make it seem a little bit more, and then maybe I would have cut it, I don't know. But
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Because I love you so much. Because as I was thinking to myself, I was like, I mean, I guess I would like, you know, push Pele more, a bit more. I would like to see him more. I feel like he's like a character that we kind of forget about. But a fun fact about this movie is that if you watch the director's cut, they reshot a lot of scenes. There's like a whole bit, there's a whole scene in the director's cut where it's like a part of the ceremony ritual where they're gonna like sacrifice a child in this river at night. It's the only scene at night. And the village says no. The village like defends the child and like cries and wails prior to the wailing scene. And then they don't kill the kid. And then that's when Danny and Christian has their big fight. So they reshot the big fight during the day so that they could edit it into the film better, because they cut that scene out completely. So there might have been other scenes that like got cut.
which leads to me to watchability. I'd say this is like a 9 out of 10 for me. It is long. That's the only reason why I would say more of like a 9.
I do agree, 9 out of 10. Because it's gory, but it's not 100% gory. It's not like anyone's getting chased down and things are going to pop out at you, kind of a horror film. So if you're a jumpy person, I think you could still find enjoyment in this film. Yeah. And that's the end of spooky season. Okay.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Make sure you comment below if you have any movies for spooky season next year. So we do have a theme for the month of November. We are doing Nicholas Spark movies. And for November and for Nicholas.
And it's for Nicholas Sparks. The man who basically made all of our expectations so high.
Okay, so for Nicholas Sparks, we are each picking 2 movies. My 2 choices are the classic Notebook that we all know and love, and then The Last Song, which is currently on Disney+.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, that makes sense. Okay, and my selection is A Walk to Remember and Dear John. So if you are interested in any of those things, please hit us up in the month of November. Again, comment down below if you know any Nicholas Sparks stuff, the adaptations, the whole 9 yards. We want to know. So yeah.
Yeah, and comment down if you're Team Danny or Team Christian as well. Definitely looking for more Team Christian folks out there.
Yes. So we don't feel like horrible monsters. So thank you again for watching. My name is Sam.
I'm Belize.
And we are Heartbreaker Films. See you next time.